Hello and welcome to another video. We are in Camera Raw and we're looking down directly on top of a thistle. I took this image quite some time ago. I keep coming back to it. I was a little bit unsure what to do with it. Then I started experimenting with color. Now we're going to start off in Adobe Camera Raw. We're then going to go into Photoshop. Looking at the image, looking a little bit flat, a little bit dull, not surprising when you look at the histogram, there's quite a range of white pixels missing. So let's come down to the white slider. We're going to take this across, just looking at that histogram, backing it up slightly from that point. I'm going to drop it down into this area here. That has brightened up this area and the area inside our thistle. So I'm going to come to the highlights. We're going to take this down, I'm going to move it into there. That looks really good. Like that. I'm not going to touch the black slider. We are going to come up to shadows and looking at it, it's this area in particular. I'm just going to drop it down to the left hand side. We're going to darken it down. Let's take it to that point. Okay, a little bit of contrast, taking this up to +15. Exposure, moving it, no, let's darken it down. Just going to take it to there. We've gone down to -0.10. We're not going to touch the white balance, but coming up to the profile at the moment is the default, which is the Adobe color. You can see these are my favorites. I'm using a Fuji camera and there it is, we got some Fuji films. This is the one that gave me the idea. It's the Velvia. Let's click on it. I'm going to go to browse. Now if you come down to camera matching, these are all the ones from your camera. They will vary depending on the make of camera you are using. Where you see the little stars, this is where I've clicked on them to add them to my favorites. We're going to come up, we're going to go to the Adobe landscape. That's the one we're going to be using. And I'm going to click on close and there it is. You can see Adobe landscape. Okay, coming down to texture. Really like this. It tends to work on this part of the image on its own. Watch what happens if I take it up. Let's go up into this area here, and if I just double click, it goes back to the default, just lifting it back up again, working on the center part of our thistle and around these areas here. So that looks really good. Let's come down to vibrance, just a little bit of vibrance with it. That will do nicely. Looking at the image, there is a part of it over here, this rather vivid green. Not so sure I like that. Once I've seen it, my eye keeps going back to it. So let's pick up the crop tool. Just going to click down here, just going to run it over the image, going to bring it in very slightly as well from the right hand side. I like this area here. I'm just going to pull that out a little bit. If I just right click, I've got it set to normal, so I've not got any constraints with this showing. Right, let's just double click. That's going to apply the crop. For the next stage, we're going to head up to this icon here. Now this is for the calibration. First thing you'll notice is shadow tint. We have got green, we have got magenta. If I take the magenta up, let's go up to this sort of area here. Red primary. Let's take this across, moving it back and forth. I think it's looking better. On the right hand side, gonna move it over here. Let's come and have a look at the saturation. I like what it's doing, particularly around this area. It's starting to get some nice colors coming through. Green primary, worth experimenting. Nope, let's take it across to this side and just moving it up, keeping an eye on the image. There, that will do. Coming down to saturation, yeah, I'm going to leave it exactly where it is on +38. Both are. Right, coming down to the blue primary, moving this. Nope, it's not going to go in that direction. Dropping it down to the left hand side. Once again, the colors, the tones in this region here are starting to look pretty good. Going to move the saturation across. Going to go a little bit steady with it, taking it to +10. If I come down to this little button here, this little icon, click on it, you can see there's the before, there's the after with the calibration. Really like the way this is looking. I'm going to head up to this little FX icon. We're going to come down to the post-crop vignette. Going to drop it down slightly to the left hand side, taking it to that sort of area, and I'm leaving these all on the default positions. Yes, once again, you can try it out, but that really works well with the image. For the next stage, we're going to come down to Open Object. Now, if you can see Open Image, just press and hold down Shift on the keyboard. That'll change it to Open Object. And when we click on this, this is going to open it into Photoshop. Just waiting for a few seconds while it loads. And there it is. Command 0, Control 0 will take us to fit on screen. Now you can tell this is a smart object because you've got this little icon in the bottom. Now if you double click on the thumbnail, it's going to take you back into Camera Raw. I'm going to click Cancel. Now we're going to create another smart object, but I don't want it to go back into Camera Raw. So what we need to do is put in a new empty layer, press and hold down Alt or Option, and we're going to come up to Layer, and we're going to come down to Merge Visible. That's going to stamp this layer into this layer here, but you can see it's no longer a smart object. Bring your cursor just over the area here, right click, and we're going to go down to Convert to Smart Object. Now even though it's a smart object, it's a little bit different because when you double click on the thumbnail, we're not going to go back into Camera Raw. Instead, what's going to happen, it's going to open a new tab, and you can see there it is. Don't forget we were on layer 1. It's layer1.psb, and if you come across to this side, it's saying it's an RGB / and this is for 8-bit. Let's just put it to fit on screen, Command 0, Control 0. Now to bring even more depth to the color, what we're going to do is we're going to head up to Image, Mode. We're going to come down to LAB Color or Lab Color. Notice how it's changed. It's now saying Lab on the side here, but you won't notice any difference with the color just yet. Let's head over to an adjustment layer. We're going to come down and we're going to select Curves. A few changes we need to make. Come up to this little lined icon here, clicking on it, we're going to come down to Curves Display Option. Now this is the default, the grid pattern that we have. Click on this one so you get that much closer grid pattern and click OK. Coming up to where it said lightness, you've got A, you've got B. We're going to start with A. Bring your cursor down to the bottom. We're going to move it in. We're going to take it to the first line. Look at those colors coming through already. We're going to take it to there. So it just lines up here with this first line. Coming across to the other side, we're going to move it in. We're now beginning to cancel out so much of that red color. We're going to take it into there. That's starting to look pretty good. Right, let's head up. We're going to come down to B. We're going to repeat the process. We're going to move this in. Once again, taking it to the first line. With some images you might want to experiment and take it to the second line, but this one works better just going for the first one here. Will do nicely. Let's move that in like this as well. There will do. We're going to come back, we're going to change it to lightness. If I come down to the little eye icon, the visibility, that's the before, that's the after. Just love what it does to the colors and the tones in the image. Now once you've done this, you can save it as a preset. Once again, head up to this little lined icon at the top, come down and go to Save Curves Preset. Now I've got a few presets. I'm going to call this one Color Boost ×1. In other words, for that one grid pattern that we've got. We're going to click on Save. Right, now if I just reset it, there, we've now gone back to the defaults. Next time you want to do this, if you come to where it says preset, it's got default, come down to the bottom, there's the one we've just done, which is the color boost ×1. There it is, there's the difference. We can also have a look at the ×2, the one I did, and let's just come to this one there. That looks better. That's using, I think this was using it to the, yes, to the first one, but this is the one we have just created. Okay, now that we've done that, all you need to do is come up to File, and we're going to come down to Save. Now what this is going to do, it's going to update the smart object. The two are linked, and there we are. If I just close this down, let's take a look. For a start, if we go from this tab to this tab, you'll notice no difference in the colors and tones. If I switch it off here, you can see the way it's enriched the colors and tones around here and here as well. There's more. You can close this down. You don't need that anymore. You can save this as a .psd file. You can close it down. You can then reopen it. The next time you come over to this thumbnail and you double click, it's always a good idea as well. Let's call this what it is, which is LAB color. Next time you double click on this thumbnail, it's going to open it back up. There it is, we're back as a PSB file. We're on our layer mask. If I click on this one, you can see there it is, we're back into LAB color. Let's double click on our grid pattern here for our, or should I say, let's click on for the curves, that's what I was getting at. And yes, you can see there it is, that's the preset we used, the color boost ×1. Looking at the image, perhaps we, just darken it down slightly, bringing my cursor out. If we come around this area here, this is the part I want to darken down, and you can see it's just around that part of the grid. So let's pull it down just to give it a little bit more depth to the color. That will do nicely. It's darkening down here slightly as well. You can see the way it's bobbing around. What you can do is just click down, that puts in a little grab handle. You can just lift it up just to brighten that area up like this. It's also lightening that leaf. Quite like the way that's looking. Once again, File. We're going to come down to Save, and let's come straight over to this tab, just waiting for it to update, and there it is. And that's the sort of idea I had when I was experimenting with colour. I think it just works with the shapes, it works with the way the image is looking, taking it directly on top. It's not actually a natural history picture as such. It's become far more of a pattern picture and emphasising those colours and tones in the image. There it is from Camera Raw, and you can see just how far we can take it. If you want to just blend it in slightly, just drop down the opacity, perhaps to something like this. That will do nicely there. So go on, give it a try. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Give it the thumbs up if you have. Don't forget to subscribe, plenty more videos to come, and click that little bell icon. That way you'll receive a notification every time a new video is posted. But until the next time, it is happy imaging, and take care.